So again, you look at when you walk into a room and you're ready to take some rooms, whatever it's for, doctor's office, lawyer's office, schools, anything at all, you look for your best composition first. And if you belong to Camera Club, you know composition. That's one thing they're talking about all the time. And sometimes there are two good shots. You know what? If I'm hired to take one room, one shot, guess what? I give them three. Because I give them the best one, I'll say, you know, I have a couple. I make sure that they know what I think is the best one. But I say, you know, I was there anyway. How much more time does it take? Even if they ask for 6 rooms, always take a couple of shots just in case something went wrong with one of them. Go over to the other side of the room and get another good angle. So anyway, I look for the best composition first, maybe even a couple of different spaces. I put my camera on the tripod. I set up the composition. Maybe it's going to be vertical that looks best. Maybe the ceilings are beautiful neo-Cofford ceilings or something. Or maybe it's going to be horizontal. You put your 2 lights up, or you have your assistant put that up, one on either side of the camera. I take the meter readings, but I'll tell you right now, most well-lit rooms are about a 25th of a second, which is where your camera might be. I mean, if there's any movement of fans going around or something, there's a stop set. At f16 or f11 at ISO 100, that's about a standard room. Not this room right now because it's kind of dark, but almost all rooms, it's kind of funny. I always brought those meters around and say, oh, f11. Let's try it next time. Get the meters. Oh, f11. It just always is f11. Not outdoors, that's a whole different thing, but inside, that's where it comes out. So then you add your pepper lights as needed, because again, we go F11, 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 whoops, down here is only F5.6 or F8 or something. That's where we add a little pepper light. If the pepper lights are too strong, those little Morris mini slaves, we just put a little handkerchief, a white handkerchief around them. They still see the light somehow through that, and they'll go off, and it's a nice soft look, especially with the diffuser on them. And then you would do what we call drag the shutter. Drag the shutter just means, say your reading is f11 at 1/25th of a second, very standard shot for that at 100 ISO. You change your shutter speed. Now, no matter what it says to do, you just change your shutter speed to a half a second, a quarter of a second, or 1 second. It almost always works. Almost always works. It brings in, it doesn't bring in the dark lights, it brings in the ambient light. A little bit more will come in from the outside. All the lights that are in the room will just kind of come alive. If you don't drag the shutter, it looks kind of flat because you've lighted it, and everything looks kind of homogenized, like a little flat. Dragging the shutter just brings life to it. It makes such a big difference. Just leave your shutter open. Put it on manual to do this, by the way. And then you set your shutter speed, which should be at 1/25th, down here. Set the aperture at f11, and whatever your ISO is going to be, which is usually 100 if you can possibly do it. And that's what I did here. I had this is a very small area, but I had 2 lights. Sometimes you can use smaller umbrellas if the space. Still use your regular strobes, turn them down, but use smaller umbrellas if there's not too much space. Same here. Now this is a very light and bright room, but you know what? I still kept the same settings. And then I dragged the shutter, which brought that in, those lights in. Actually, I put that in because it was something, it was not good. It reflected that too much. But it brought the light of the fireplace in. Anything that's light came in there when I dragged the shutter.
So, Sarah,
yes?
So you're actually overexposing the image. Maintaining the same aperture and speed, but...
Right. I turn it down a little bit. Once I get the readings, I go down maybe 1 stop. And then when I'm overexposing, if you want to call it that, I'm bringing more light on just the light areas because I'm taking it as the vanilla kind of, I'm taking the readings from the vanilla kind of look where there are 2 things and even maybe some pepper lights. But I make sure it's not blowing out that room, make sure it's underexposed just a little, and then by dragging the shutter, it stays open for an extra small amount, a half of a second or something, and it's bringing in just the bright things. And you don't want that overexposed either, but it just gives depth to the, you can experiment with it, but I think once you do it, you'll find how easy it is. Just use those settings, and they pretty much always work. And if you don't want to use it, then you're going to use HDR, which is high dynamic range. So for those of you who aren't too familiar with high HDR, we'll go through it just quite quickly. Why do we need HDR? Our eyes are an amazing machine, but our cameras aren't as our eyes can see such a wonderful range. We can be, if there was light outside, I'd just look outside, it would look very normal, and most of the time, you know, if it weren't at night or something. And if you looked around the room and some man had a dark shirt on, you'd see detail in the dark shirt. And if someone has something bright white on, you would see a white shirt, you'd see the details, it wouldn't be blown out. So our eyes adjust so quickly, they're just so amazing. But our cameras aren't so amazing, so we have to compensate a little bit for that. Our human eye sees, I think it's measured in lumens, and I forgot the numbers, but our human eye sees so much that it's just amazing. But then along came some film, which is the next one, and it didn't see as much as our eyes. And then unfortunately along came, fortunately and unfortunately, is digital capture, which sees even less. And then one more. So this is what we see. We see the shadow areas under most conditions, everyday lighting that we just, you know, that we deal with 95% of the time. We see all of this. We see the shadow areas and we see the highlighted areas. Film doesn't see quite as much, and then digital capture really sees less than a third of what our eyes see. So if you just took a picture and you just took a reading with your meter and there's some bright and dark areas in it, most of the time, do you see detail in the dark areas? It's not. It's kind of blocked up. And in the highlights, that's kind of blown out. Maybe you see a little detail, but not the amount that your eye saw. And that's when you have to say, okay, maybe I can take some pictures. I can take a picture from this area here. The next picture can be the middle area of this. The next picture can be here, maybe a couple in the middle, and then some over here, maybe 6 or 7 images. Put them together, and then it will see what my eye has seen. Because that's what you want to see, the same way that you've seen, unless you're doing something very mysterious, or you're looking for a very high-key picture or low-key or something. But for general photography of rooms and architecture, you want to see what you have, you want to show what you have just seen. Okay? So lighting a space the HDR way. Now, someone came to my club and he said, oh, you always have to take 7 pictures. And I thought, well, I'm not going to say anything, but you know, a very, very contrasty scene needs maybe 12 or more pictures, and a very beautiful, just really, really balanced lighting only needs 2 or 3. So it's usually between 3 and 12 to add your to put your HDR together. And the theory is that once you do, take all 3, we'll say there are 3 of them or however many, you're putting them together in some image-altering program, whether it's Photoshop, Photoshop Extended, we'll go through those later, and then it's going to take the best part of each image. So if you're taking a very, very, very dark picture, but the lights look perfect, that's your first picture, the dark, you know, the lights. And then the next picture could be some of the midtones and all the way up to a very, very, very light picture, but the darks look perfect. You can see all the details. And then you put them together. And your HDR can be accomplished with Photoshop Extended. Actually can be done in Photoshop. There are some places there. There is, I think with Photoshop CS5 it's pretty good, but it's not excellent. Photoshop Extended is wonderful, does a wonderful job. Nick Software, this just came out last summer, I think, the HDR Effects Pro. It's always on sale for $99, so don't spend the $169 or 100, whatever it is, $160. Always get it for $99. I think every other week it's on sale for $99. Photomedics is about $69. It's one of my favorites. You know, I find one time one's a favorite, and then I'll look at a picture and I'll say, I don't like it. And then for some reason the other one works for that setting. So it's kind of funny. Well, those two are both nice. They're pretty easy to use. They're pretty intuitive after you do it a few times. You don't want that look that, you know, something's wrong. This is not the way I saw it. You learn real fast how to get rid of that. You want it to look very natural. And with all of these programs, it can be natural. When I first started, there was no such thing as HDR. I mean, high dynamic range it was, but I would take pictures and mask them together, make a little mask, which means like getting a hole in the top layer, seeing something in the next layer that was nice, and then making a hole in that layer with a mask, and seeing all the way through to the best part of each layer, and I'd bring them together. Time consuming, yes. Now you just put it, it does take about a minute and a half, but that's when I go and get a drink of water, that's when I, you know, exercise a little bit, and then I come back and there's my picture, voila, with a few little adjustments. Again, you learn those adjustments pretty fast. So you take 2 to 12 images of the same scene, changing the shutter speed of each one to get the different exposures. Never touch your aperture. Don't change that. You always want your aperture at whatever you've determined your aperture should be, and you just change your shutter speed so it starts off maybe, I usually start at one end or the other. And it's easy to identify when the next picture comes along because it's dark, dark, a little bit light, a little bit light, all the way to bright. And then the next one, dark. So you know when the picture's, you've finished with that setting. And then you just move your shutter speed. The Nikons can do it kind of automatically. The Canons really can't, but I've never found any problem by moving the shutter speed on my camera. What you don't want to do is touch the release button to set it off. That's why I use a cable release. Plugged into my computer, you use your cable release, it sets it off, you're not touching, because every time you push down on your camera, particularly on a rug, but it may only move it 1 pixel, but 1 pixel can make the whole thing blurry when you're putting them together. So a cable release really works well. I have to thank Alyssa for that, because I was in New York with her 3 or 4, 5 years ago, and I said, I really don't like using these cable releases. She said, oh, you get used to it real fast. Do you remember when I said that to you? You said, I get used to it real fast. I did it if it was a job. But I didn't use it all the time, so now I use it all the time for anything HDR, and now I think, oh my gosh, I don't have a cable release. How can I do this? So, and then when you're also on a job, also get some close-ups of things. Sometimes you don't need the HDR for that if your rooms are lighted and so forth. But I always try to, this is for a builder or a bed and breakfast, and he said, I really like my little decorations on the sink, so I took the sink. In the background, I had the bed, put some towels that matched and so forth. This is what I did this was my own assignment. This is how you do it. Sometimes you don't even need to know numbers. You just put it on, say F11 or whatever you think is good for that thing. And then you just take your first picture nice and low and you say, okay, I've got enough information there in the light areas. That's enough information. Actually, I probably didn't even need to do that one. It's better to have one too many than one too few. And then I put this picture with that picture, this one. By this one, it's starting to get blown out, and I don't need all that information there. Again, you can see on the computer a little better. But I only probably needed 4 pictures. But you know what? Get as many as you can because just in case. This one was HDR. You want to be sure not to blow out the light there. The outside, again, it was for editorial, so they don't seem to care as much as we do. In fact, they kind of like they don't want you to look at the outside. So if you do any work for magazines, they always tell you, "I'll blow out the outside," and you'll say, "Oh, I don't like to do that." They say, "Oh no, that looks better." So just know that. And MIT, you've probably all seen this place, and this is the way that looked. So that's the way I want to present it, even though I did do it in HDR. That's the way it looks, so that's the way I'd present it. It wasn't an assignment, it was just for fun. Now, this was down the Cape, and for a bed and breakfast, and another one in Sandwich. And Camera Club people would not like that, and I looked at it and I thought, oh my gosh, her little chocolate-covered cherries are out of focus. I put some wine in the bottle there, put a fire in the fireplace, and I said to her, I'm so sorry about that picture. And she said, why, what's wrong with that picture? I said, it's out of focus. She said, it's not. What's the matter with that picture? That's not out of focus at all. I said, well, those are out of focus. They are. Oh my gosh, they are. So we have if you could do Camera Club work, and you do pretty well in your Camera Club, I know most of you people are from the Newton Camera Club, you have no problem doing work for builders and bed and breakfast. They don't even see the things that we see. So. And that was HDR. You could hardly see. That was just very dark on the outside, very bright on the outside and dark on the inside. And this one I just want to show you with 2 pictures. This is a place down the Cape, Ocean Edge, where we have a little place. Outside, I just took this, and it's perfectly exposed, as you can see on the inside there. It's hard to see here. And then the next one I took, and I exposed to the outside. And I only worried about the outside. And the third picture, when I put it together, it's not perfect, but it shows just with 2 pictures, which was a little bit contrasty. It should probably have had 3 or 4, but it works sometimes. Just 2 photographs will do the trick. You don't always have to have 75 of them, but it's better. The more there are, the smoother the gradations will be.
Do you have it set on manual, please?
You always have it set on manual, yep, so that you have your aperture set where you want it, and then you have your shutter speed set where you want it, where you want to start, and then you're just moving the shutter speed the whole time, all the way up or all the way down. Yep, manual's the better way to go, really the best way to go. And then these, we just run through these fast. I started and said, okay, it's bright enough outside, and then it's getting brighter and brighter. Just go through them all the way up, all the way up. And then finally it's blown out, but it looks good over there. And then I just did the last one, I think, is one more. And it put them together. Actually, it may have been another picture there. Okay, so this one here, sometimes so now this window here gave that light. This one gave this light and so forth. But there's actually no window there. But I just drew some squares and lightened it up, hit that little level buttons and moved it over, and there's another one. The homeowner or the bed and breakfast man didn't even notice that. It just looks right. It was just too plain there. So you have the liberty to do anything you want that makes the image look better. Okay, excuse me, to do the job. And we said to the, I mean, there were 3 sanctuaries. I don't know if you've been in there, but 3 sanctuaries there. It's in Copley Square. Just a beautiful place with beautiful people working there. They were so warm and welcoming. And we did the conference rooms and studies and libraries and so forth. So it took us 4.5 days. So I came home and worked on them over the weekend. And on Monday they were all ready. And I usually put them in either I use YouSend It or I put them in a little CD, make a pretty little cover for them, and send them off. And I thought, sometimes these pictures just get in a closet somewhere. Maybe what I should do is take these images and bring them down and give them a little slideshow or something. So I called him up and called the minister. It's a woman minister, lovely lady, and I said, your pictures are done. Actually, would you like us to come down and give you a little slideshow today? I called early in the morning. She said, oh, that would be wonderful. So quickly I put together a slide. And she said, well, can we invite some other people from the church? I said, sure. We'll be over at 3 o'clock or whatever. So I put a little slideshow together with Jesu, Joy of Man's Desiring music. So, I mean, it was nice. It was nice. So we put this on with all the other pictures, and when this one came along, one lady said in the grouping there of maybe 15 or 20 people, oh my gosh, God was with you when you took that. I thought, oh, and I looked at my assistant, and she looked at me, and I thought, oh, what do we do? I said, I have to fess up. We didn't fess up then, I admit it. So we went through the whole thing, and they were very happy, and I gave her the CD. When everybody left, I said to the minister, can I talk to you for just a minute? I said, actually, those rays of light? She says, oh, they're beautiful. I said, well, actually, I put them in Photoshop. She says, well, God was with you when you put them in. I said, okay, well, whatever. She said, that's our secret. Of course, I've told everybody in the conferences and everything and camera clubs, but she said, no, they don't need to. And they used that picture for a couple of years there with those rays of light. And boy, did I feel guilty every time I saw that picture. That was their signature picture for a long time, and there's that lady thinking that God was with me when I did it. But anyway, so I always fess up, and I always give them the picture, the honest, true, original picture, which I did for that one as well, so that she had both of them. Okay, and then just one more. Okay, and here too, I put light. This light goes with this window. That light goes with that window. There's one window in that room, but I put in 2 things. And then that, if you've been there on one of the Boston Harbor Island things, there is no window there. That's the bottom or the top of that window. You can't do that in certain things. If you're in camera club, you can't change your nature pictures. You can't change your travel pictures. But if it's for general or for your own, not for a job, if it's for your own fun, do whatever you want. Just be creative. Someone asked me when I first came in how I started in this business, and it's kind of a funny story. It's just kind of a sad story, but the name of this presentation today is Confessions of an Architecture Photographer. So I'm going to confess to you how I started. I was in my camera club 15 years ago, and on the back table, just as you have, we had all kinds of little notices and whatever. And I saw, contest, which had nothing to do with my camera club. And it said the prize, and I always look at the prizes. So, there's a Minolta camera, and I had Minoltas, a nice SLR Minolta camera, probably an $800 camera. And I thought, that's enough. 3 of them were given for prizes, and they were pictures of Massachusetts and pictures of New England. You could put in 6 pictures of one from each state. You could put in 6 pictures, up to 6 pictures of just Massachusetts. So the one prize was the overall best, one was the best Massachusetts, and one was the best ones put together from all the states, whatever. Anyway, didn't I win one of the cameras? So I called them and I was so excited when I heard I won, and I called them. This is before internet, so it was all phone calls. And I thanked them, and they said, we love those pictures. Those are very nice. Would you like to shoot for us? So I thought, I'm doing pretty well in my camera club. Sure, I can do this. And I just won this competition, so I must be good. That's not true. So I said, sure, I could do that. They said, would you like to shoot a bed and breakfast for us up in Goshen, Vermont? We'll pay you so much money. You can go up and stay for a day or 2 or whatever you want. Bring your husband or someone if you want, if you need an assistant. And you can stay for 2 or 3. The meals are fabulous. We give 3 meals a day. We grow the food on the premises. It's a great place. I said, sure, I can do that. So I went up with my little flash. It's not the way to do it. And I went up with a tripod. Fortunately, I had an insight to bring a tripod, no cable release, and just my camera. And this is the days of film. So I brought 15 rolls of slide film. And I took 13 of them. No, excuse me. I'm sorry. I took 11 of them. And I came home, and I took them, and she said, well, it's not a busy time, we'll send you up. And the owner wasn't there, by the way. And so the people said, I don't know, we'll have all the rooms at one time or another. If you stay for 2 or 3 days, everything will be eventually empty. We'll give you a key, shoot your own room first, and these empty ones, and tomorrow we'll give you new ones, and we'll move the people. As the people move out, you get theirs. Shoot the dining room, shoot the cooks, shoot anything you want. So I shot the dining room, the cooks, and all the different rooms, and the outside, and the growing the food, and all this and that. And then I came home and thanked them and said, we'll get the pictures to him in a few days. They said, that's all right, no hurry. Just send them to that advertising agency who sent you here. So I brought them to Gorchef and Gorchef. They asked me, do you want these numbered? I have no idea to this day why I said no. But thank goodness I said no. Because when they came home, I held up the first one and said, oh, that's black nose. What can I do? What am I? Oh.